Hi, and welcome to a brand new video. So today, in this video, we're going to be tackling the implement tree problem, which you can see on the screen. So basically, we need to create a class, and this class has four functions. We first have the init function where we just initialize this object. The insert is that we need to insert a word to the tree, where a tree is essentially a list of strings. Then we need to search to see whether a certain word is already in the tree. And then we need to return if they give us a prefix, whether any one of the words inside our tree has that prefix to it. And tree is a little bit of a confusing name just to kind of distract us, but I think the more appropriate term here would be something like a list, because essentially we're adding these words to a list, and that's what we're going to be using to solve this problem. So as you can see here, I created the basic function and also the test case inside the notepad. So like I said, we need to use a list to store the strings inside this tree. So I'm going to do private list string because we're storing a list of strings. And then we're going to initialize that when the tree object is initialized. So it's essentially when we create this step, we're going to create a new string list for that specific tree in this step here, if we call that initialize tree method. And then inside insert, we need to insert a word inside our list. So all you need to do is list.add a word, pretty straightforward. And if you don't know what a list is, I really recommend you check out my previous videos where I do explain that this data structure in more depth. Inside search, we could do like a binary search, or we could like iterate through the list and see whether this word exists, but luckily list already has a method that does it for us. So just return list.contains word. And then this method is going to be a tiny bit more complex. As you can see, these other three methods were just one line. This is going to be a little bit more than one line, but it's still the basic concept. So what we're going to do is we're going to iterate through this list. So I'm going to say for s in list, I'm going to be using a for each loop here. We're going to say if prefix dot length is greater than s dot length. And remember, in this method, we need to see whether the word starts with the prefix. But the prefix is longer than the word. Well, that doesn't really make sense. So we'll just continue. Else, which if it doesn't fit this, that means it'll go to the next word in the list. But if it does meet this condition, which means that at or I mean, if it doesn't meet this condition and it means that s is longer than the prefix, then what we can say that if s dot substring 0 to prefix dot length, so we're saying whether that beginning part of the word dot equals prefix, then we're going to return true. So what we did here is that we're taking this s here, so we're taking the word inside the list, and we're taking a substring from the first letter to the prefix dot length, which means that we're basically taking that first chunk of the string that could be the prefix, and we're seeing whether it's the prefix or whether it's something else. So as you can kind of see here in Eclipse, it provides an example. If you have smiles.substring 1 to 5, it takes the first character and it goes to the fifth character but doesn't include it. So that's why it returns mile. So here if we go from the if we go from the 0th index to prefix.length, then we'll get a string that's the same length as prefix at the beginning of the string, and we can see whether that equals prefix. And then if it iterates through this entire list, it hasn't returned anything, that means that none of the words have that prefix at the beginning, so we can return false. So if I run my code, as you can see, outputs, nothing. So let's actually, every single time we do search or starts with let's system.println. So now if we run our code, as you can see, we got true, false, true, true. So if we look over at our notepad here, so this first command, insert doesn't actually do anything. We're just adding apple to our list. So now as you can see here, we start when we initialize the tree object, we start with 0 words in the list. Now we have apple in the list. Now, if we search for apple, we're supposed to return true, right? Because we have that word inside the list. But if you search for something like app, it's not in the list. Because search searches for the entire word, starts with is what searches for that prefix. So now if you search for starts with app, that returns true because apple starts with app. Now, if we just insert the word app and we search for that, it will return true. So as you can see, true, false, true, true, which is what we got in our notepad. So I hope this video was helpful and see you in the next video.